most of the meetings I've ever attended, we usually try to let them be heard at the front end so they can go unless they're there for the whole discussion, then want to contribute on what the agenda items are along the way in the discussion. So that's been my experience.
But he's got a good point. It's a busy board. They do a lot of stuff. So, they need to finish their agenda. Sometimes they're on a timeline. So, but that should be the decision of the chair and the board, whether or
Right.
not they
So-
want to move it up.
Listen, we'll keep an eye on it. If there's an issue, we'll address it, but I don't think there is an issue
Any board
personally.
can do that, but I mean, if it becomes an issue, we can
Right.
move,
Address it.
officially move it up.
Okay. All right. We need to call the question?
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go
before
ahead.
before you move on to the next item, there was
Yep.
one other thing that I wanted to bring up during my comments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody here is in the audience is here hanging on item 21, which is the annual review of the charter officials. But I just wanted to state publicly that staff is going to ask the council to defer that into January. That discussion will not be held tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good idea. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. 17.
1 second, Mayor. I'll read it. I just got to grab it.
It's a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving a piggyback agreement with Florida Technical Consultants LLC for continuing GIS consulting services, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to issue a purchase order and providing for an effective date.
Looking for a motion in a second.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment on this matter? Seeing no public comment is closed. And we're going to do a presentation on this, I think.
Mayor, what we'll do is we'll do the presentation, go to the council for any questions, and then the vote.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to introduce Jim Barton, who's here from Florida Technical. He's the proposed GIS consultant for the town. He has a very quick presentation for you tonight, just to show you in a very short amount of time some of the layers that he's created based on the data that we provided him this week. So this is just a little preview of the types of service you're going to get from.
We don't have our big screens up. What's up?
Yeah.
Those Christmas
Powered down,
lights,
that's why.
big screen.
Yeah, somebody tell Andy. Hey, Andy, we got a string of lights out, right? On the far right of the building? Okay.
That's why the big screen's not.
All right.
It's all about power being directed there now.
I got to minimize.
They're LEDs. I don't think so, but I appreciate it.
Actually,
I have a yard to
I've
prove
been
it.
teasing Andy
Good.
about it for like 2 weeks now.
Good.
anyways.
I mean, it's not for 2 weeks.
It's going to take
Huh?
Yeah.
He's known
No,
about
but I
that for
pulled the
2
plug
weeks.
on one.
Oh, jeez.
The lights are on.
Yeah.
I might have to sit and face the screen because I can't see that one. Would you rather stand at the podium?
He needs the mouse. He's going to operate the mouse.
Yeah. He needs to sit there.
So our power, what's up with our deals?
It's the screen's powered down. They're going to power up in a second.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm a little bit too far away with this.
Too far away?
All right.
It's Bluetooth. So I'll sit here. There you go.
All right, you got a screen in front of you now to the left.
Screen.
Bear with us.
Ta-da.
Thank you very much.
Screen number 2.
2 screens. Okay.
Thanks very much for the opportunity for me to present. My name is James Barton. I'm the president of Florida Technical Consultants. We're a civil engineering firm that focuses mostly on doing GIS work for municipalities. So I wanted to kind of go over the town GIS system. You have a system in place, and our goal is to help to build it and manage it. We can start with. So you already have this this platform, and we're going to start building the GIS and run it all through this platform. So the advantage of this is that all the data is in one place. It's all owned by the town, and everyone can access to the latest data set. It's not on anyone individual's computer. If then we go over to groups. So part of managing the organization is to start dividing the content into different groups, so we can have different departments focus on their data And we can also have public-facing groups, so we can determine which content would be would be valuable for the residents to see and get feedback on. So these maps that we'll be looking at can be embedded in the town website. So if we take a look at some of the maps and explore some of the maps, it's a very simple interface. So you can turn layers on and off. And so far we've had content of the land use, zoning, flood zones, and the town boundary. But we're just kind of put this together for a demo. There's a lot more data that's going to be available with Public Works, stormwater issues. We'll have all the parcels with all the addresses, and we could our goal is to work with the town to determine what are the priority goals, and how do we get the data to match those, and how do we get the system to put it together to match them. So we can turn layers of data on and off, and if we turn on, for example, flood zones is a very good example of a public-facing map. So if there's a realtor that wants to see what flood zone a certain property is in, they don't have to call the town and ask. They can be directed to the website, so they don't have to call again. If we click on any one of these features, then a little pop-up shows up with all the information about it. And again, we want to work with the town to determine what information you want to manage. So this is, if we embed this in the town website, I mean, we can go around and we can zoom in and out, and the residents would be free to explore data on their own. This data can also be seen on a mobile device. So let me just type back in. Right, exactly. But we can see the same data on a tablet, and as you drive around, the map moves around behind you. So this is really good for people to go and look at things in the field and be able to communicate back to the main office through this platform. So it's a really good, it's a very powerful tool to communicate with the field. This data is also going to be available for the town staff to use on their desktop versions and to do more higher-end analysis on the data. And so the data will be stored on this platform. I'll be the administrator of the platform along with Mr. Muniz, but I will not own the data. I will not own the content. That'll always be under the responsibility of the town, which is always good. If there's any kind of comments, what happens sometimes, it's like a Word document. You make a change, you save it on your computer, no one else sees it. But with this platform, if someone notices a change in the data, and I'm not an expert in your data, so there's a lot of communication to go on to say, hey, this zoning got changed. I'll be informed. We'll make the change, and then we'll post. But the latest data set will always be available to everybody. And with the communication, we'll be able to keep it updated and managed very efficiently. So it's a very cost-effective way to do a town GIS.
Show them the zoning layer.
So you want to see the zoning? Is that right there, right?
Pretty simple in our town.
So here's the zoning layer, and we do have, is that the one with the symbols, right? I can hardly see. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you click on, there's not a lot of information about the zoning, but it has the zoning. We'll have, did you mention hyperlinks? Yeah, so we would be able to hyperlink if you had like ordinances.
Yeah, right.
Then we'd be able to put a point on the map and hyperlink the ordinance. So rather than look through books, you can just look on the map and have everything at your fingertips. And then if we're missing one, then you see it right away. It's a great QA/QC tool, quality assurance, quality control, because also in the zoning, you can open this and see it in a table format. So if you have anything missing and there's one missing, you'll see it right away. And our goal will be to do a lot of training with the town staff to get you more familiar with how you use this, because if you don't use it, it's not worth having. So we want to make sure that everyone is familiar with this, comfortable with this, and then it's only really when you use it, you'll be able to ask better questions about, can it do this? And what I really like to hear is, hey, this would be really great if it did this. And it may not do it right now, but if you tell me about it, or we work together in workshops or training sessions, that's the kind of information that'll go back and forth.
All right, I've got a question, if I may. Since you do this with other municipalities and whatnot, and in different programs, the program and the system that we have and that we're using, how does that compare with the others? Or are they all on the same platform, or how's that? Where are we on that level?
They're all the same.
They're all the same?
Yeah.
Okay. Which makes your job a whole lot easier.
It is. Actually, this is a brand new type of interface that just started like 3 years ago. Before that, you'd have to have like a big, massive GIS server, which was an expensive platform. You had to be a programmer to run it. It was very expensive to run, so usually larger cities like Fort Lauderdale would have a GIS system like that. Pompano has one. Typically, cities with larger utilities or larger public works organizations that need a lot more power would have that. But for smaller municipalities, this is perfect because, it's limited power. It's not got a lot of analytical capability, but really you don't need that much.
What is your opinion and position on having this on its own server rather than sharing one? Because right now I think we're planning on sharing. We talked about isolating and having it on its own server at one time, but I don't think that's kind of happening at the moment. So I want to know, ultimately, I think it should be on its own server. That's just my own opinion.
I think that either way, if it's on a server, the interface will look the same. And I think that if we start using this and there's a higher need for it and demand for more analytical capabilities, then we can seamlessly grow it into a larger server. But there's an expense involved. So I don't think you need to spend the money right now.
Okay.
Because we're still at the preliminary phase. So I think that if we start using this and really work strongly together and do a lot of training and use it all the time, like this should be open on your desk every day just to get used to it, because there's only so many tools, but it's like any.
But as you learn how it functions, you'll find more uses for it.
Exactly.
So I guess we're going to look at you and ask you, and I'm asking you now ahead of time, if you see as we progress and get into this point that you think we need to isolate and do our own server. I don't want to wait till we shoulda, coulda done that. I'd like to be looking ahead and say, it's going to be time down the road here to maybe do that.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a
Bob?
couple. You'd mentioned when you were clicking on whatever the zoning category was that we can put hyperlinks in there.
Yes,
Can they be external hyperlinks like to Municode rather than our own site?
yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's really dynamic. There's a lot of stuff we can do with it.
I'm sure you go to the conventions and you know what's going on with the
Yes.
platform itself. Is this planning on going into the cloud anytime soon?
Well, right now, this is actually in the cloud.
So then why would we ever need to upgrade servers?
So what this is limited on right now is,
How fast it runs.
yeah, well, it's not so much that, it's the ability to do repeat visits. If you're starting to talk about stormwater maintenance, for example, and you're cleaning your structures and you want to track historical records, that's where this thing is going to start. We have to really do some jumping through hoops at that point. But first, let's get all the stormwater in there. Let's do the first run and let's build all the platform for how to track the data and get everyone used to using this. And then we'll see if it's not that difficult to repost the data every year and have a data set for each year. But if you want to, we would talk about having a related table that draws all this information. And some point, we may you may want to go to a stronger asset management system, depending on, where this saves time and money is at the end of the year when you have to do all your reports and everyone's trying to count structures and look through dates and things. It's going to be on here. All you have to do is export it and send it. So there's a lot of savings in there. There's a lot of savings in, driving by the structure that was cleaned by the other crew and then going past the last one and going to the next one that's dirty and knowing exactly what everyone else has been working on. So there's a lot of efficiency that's gained that way. But behind the scenes, this will suffice for now until we get it up and running.
Okay. If we have all these sewers and things, we'll worry about that later. We don't have that kind of thing in our town.
Yeah. But there might be other things. There's a lot of other stuff that,
Capital projects.
but there's public
Right-of-way
stuff.
issues. We have a lot of right-of-way issues.
Yeah, there's firewells. We have that data set. I haven't gotten to posting it yet. But there could be, there could be a parks interface where people can click and see what amenities are at each park. If you're having events, there's event platforms that we can start building. And so to give better information to the community, it's almost unlimited what we can do with this. And right now, I don't see the need for a bigger server for anything I've talked about yet. So,
Mayor and council, if I may, one of the
right
things that we want to do, the GIS team, is to obviously work with the council and get your priorities as to what it is that you want to see in a layer after we get this up and live. So we will be constantly taking your input, working with the GIS team that we have in place, and working with our consultant to provide those layers that you guys want.
Okay? Any other additional questions? We're good?
Thank you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
Thank you. I'm good? Yeah, Keith, go ahead.
Mayor, a motion and a second if you want to
Yep.
vote or speak.
I'm good. Call the question.
Councilmember Hartman,
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank
Item
you again.
18.
Thank
This is
you.
This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving a purchase order in the amount of $53,500 to retain Craven Thompson and Associates for surveying services for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, funded Green Meadows drainage improvements, authorizing the town administrator to execute the purchase order and providing an effective date.
Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Any public comment on this matter? Seeing no public comment is closed. Back to the council. Any additional questions on this matter?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Go ahead, Gary.
Maybe Andy, you're the one to ask on this one. On the actual project, they're surveying the roads, or are they surveying just the drainage ditch area? I'm looking at Exhibit A to reference it backwards.
If I may, Vice Mayor, Rod Lade, Town Engineer, is going to come up to answer your
Absolutely.
question
Thank
on
you.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rod Lake for the record. Vice Mayor, they're going to actually survey both. I mean, for the most part, it's a swaled area, but we have to delineate cross sections to get the full information. So we'll have some information taken for the roads.
Okay. All right. I just was looking at the diagram.
Anything else? We're good?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Rod, this is part of our in-kind for the overall project? This is part of our contribution for the overall project?
Yes.
All right.
Mhm.
Say match.
Okay.
Yep.
Call the question.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes. 19.
Motion passes. Item 19 is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving a purchase order in the amount of $81,500 to retain Keith and Associates for professional services for Phase 5 of the Transportation Surface and Drainage Ongoing Rehabilitation Roadway Improvements, authorizing the execution of the purchase order and providing for an effective date. Excuse me.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Just for the record, no relation.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay. Any public comment on this issue?
Couldn't help yourself.
Seeing no public comment is closed. Back to the council. Any other questions from the council on this matter? Seeing no questions, call the question.
Councilmember Hartman,
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 20 is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving the first modification to the town's agreements with Waste Pro of Florida, Inc., relating to the town's solid waste recyclables and bulk waste collection, disposal, and processing services, waste hauling, and waste disposal agreements, clarifying the agreement's language, modifying the agreements based upon renegotiated terms, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to enter into the first modification to the agreements, and providing an effective date.
Keith, go ahead.
Mayor, would you like me to discuss?
Yeah, I was going to get a
little bit
motion in a
about this?
second for you, then
Sure.
pass it to you.
Sure.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay. It's all yours, Keith.
Sure, Mayor. Our current agreement with Waste Pro had a clause in it that basically required a true-up. And what that meant is that after 1 year of service, after they went back and analyzed all of the data, in the event that our RFP was inaccurate and that the town generated more waste than we disclosed in the RFP, they could true up their numbers to increase to the actual amount generated by the town. Prior to this waste hauler, the town really never had wonderful data about its waste collection. It was first with waste management, where the waste was commingled. Then it was with Sun Bergeron and Sun Recycling, where SWS, excuse me, where again it wasn't sure what our waste numbers were. So when we went out for RFP and got Waste Pro, it was based on figures that our expert determined that they believed was our waste number. After doing the analysis, it turned out that they were incorrect and that our waste numbers were actually higher than we disclosed in the RFP. But we had a little bit of leverage when going back to Waste Pro, and that is we knew that during the hurricane, Waste Pro, we asked them not to pick up the white goods and the brush until such time as FEMA had ended its collection, because we were being reimbursed 90% or so from FEMA. We knew that the whole time, that they were still charging us for the collection because it was us who asked them not to collect, and also because the contract was based on a year-long value and paid out monthly. But we knew we were going to come back at some portion of time and either say to them, either give us our money back from that hurricane period, or B, we have a negotiation leverage here to not do a true-up on the residential waste. What a true-up would cause would mean that next year during budget cycle, the waste bill for the residents would go up yet again. And Andy and Marty knew 100% what the reaction of the council would be to that, okay? So for the last 3-4 months, Andy, Marty, and I have been working, and Sandy, have been working diligently with Waste Pro to cut a deal. And the eventual deal is very good for the residential homeowners in the town, and that is, for the duration of this contract, which is actually 4 more years plus renewal, they've agreed to lock in the rate of what we're currently paying for residential waste. Even if it goes up considerably, we're locked in now, and it's the first time we've ever had a true lock-in on that rate. In exchange for that, we're agreed not to look back to them for the couple of months of pickup during the hurricane. Now, one thing I want to tell you about that pickup, they actually did pick up refrigerators and those sort of white goods after a couple of weeks, but they never picked up the yard debris because we told them not to pick up the yard debris, and we have a record on that. And in exchange for that, where they were really getting killed, and their numbers, they've shared them with us, they're open books, Marty goes through them with the fine-tooth comb, is that the commercial debris, okay, when you're looking at Walgreens and some of the commercial trash, we were being charged, or those commercial customers were being charged under market value of what they were actually paying for disposal. So what we agreed is on the commercial vendors, which we're not responsible for, they have private contracts with those commercial clients. We said in those private contracts, they can charge them what they're getting charged. It can be a pass-through, okay? Because that's a privatized agreement between them and the commercial vendor. So we're not regulating that. We're not getting in the middle of that. But on the residential side, they've agreed to keep the rate the same for the remainder of the contract and to ignore the true-up. And if I tell you that this was hit or miss till the end, Andy and I, Marty and Sandy, sent Waste Pro an email, what was it, Andy, 2 months ago, asking for this solution, and it wasn't until literally 5 days ago, 6 days ago, that they finally came to their senses and agreed with us, despite Russell Mackey consistently saying, I want the true up, I want the true up. So this is actually a very big deal for the residential tax base in the town, and it was a nice trade, and it was a nice solution. There's some other modifications in this language that have nothing to do really with the town. They were carryover provisions from the Bergeron contract that had to be amended. Like Waste Pro doesn't own a waste facility, and SWS Bergeron did, so there were things in there about the operation of the SWS Bergeron facility that we had to take out of the agreement. The final thing that Marty added to this agreement was a provision dealing with hurricanes in the future and how the contractor will be paid in the event of a natural disaster. So it's here for your approval. Waste Pro's already signed it, and we've actually already provided a copy of this to the OIG because they wanted to know how eventually we were dealing with the true-up and the hurricane and all the issues involved.
Keith, what was you said they still get paid in the event of a natural disaster. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So when we were bid out a contract, it wasn't based on a monthly service, it was based on a year-long service. Because you actually don't know in any given month whether the waste is going to be higher or lower in that month.
Right.
In December, it's very high. Christmas, people put out their trees and everything else. January, the numbers increase. But other times of the month, August, for example, if you look at the numbers, the collection reports are much lower, unless there's a hurricane or something like that. So when a vendor bids out a fee, $100,000 a year, whatever the number is, that number is divided over 12 months simply because it would be impossible to actually determine monthly what that waste number would be. So the waste companies, including Waste Management before them, including others, have always contended, even if you ask us to stop for 2 weeks, you're not owed any credit because that's your yearly fee. And because of that, you're not owed a credit. We always argue otherwise. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. But in this case, it's a big win.
Good.
Any additional questions? Seeing none? Any additional public comment on this? Seeing no public comment closed? Oh, sorry. Come on up.
David Sears, 5,000 Southwest 201 Terrace. Did you guys negotiate anything about if they don't meet the criteria for their collection pickup?
David, that's actually in the original agreement. That's where the penalties are. Those are in the agreement now, and they're being enforced. Andy and team are working on that diligently.
Okay, because my bulk still hasn't been picked up. It was supposed to be picked up yesterday. They picked up 202, but didn't pick up 201.
And that's the person you need to speak to right there.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any additional public comment? Public comment is closed. Back to the council. Any additional questions up here?
So if I vote for this doesn't mean I'm raising or lowering anyone's taxes, does it?
It actually means you're lowering.
It means I'm lowering it.
Yep.
Okay. But technically, that it really doesn't mean I'm doing that though, right?
No, technically it means you're lowering their
Oh,
taxes.
technically I am doing that. Okay, I'll take the technicality for a lower.
All right, call the question, please.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yay.
Okey doke. Number
Minutes.
20.
That was, let's see.
That was
item
20?
20.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on to item 22, Mayor, as 21 has been postponed till January.
All right. Approval of minutes. September 27th to October 25th.
No.
Motion?
Wait. Oh, 21, we're tabling that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment on our minutes? They've been corrected before. All right. Seeing none, back to the council. Any changes? Everybody's good? What are we doing? Right?
All good?
Call the
Good.
question.
Councilmember Hartman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll take it.
Second.
Awesome.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays, everybody.